If you've ever worked with virtual machines, whether it's in a production environment or a development environment, then you are going to be familiar with virtual machines in an Azure environment. And really the difference in working with virtual machines in an Azure environment is that you're not going to worry about the hardware for it. You don't have to spin up a server for this or the software to manage the virtual machines. That's all being done in the Azure environment for you. But they do represent, virtual machines do represent pretty much the lowest level, the most detailed level of control that you're going to have for a workload that you're creating in the Azure environment. You have a virtual machine. You have control of the operating system and everything that goes into the operating system. So that is what a virtual machine is. Let's take a look at some of the features. First of all, you can use images that are built by different product teams to deploy pre-built workloads. So let's say you want to spin up a SQL Server virtual machine. Well, you can actually take a pre-existing image that's already loaded into the Azure environment, and then you can just create that and start going to have SQL Server, and you're along the way. SharePoint, if you've ever done SharePoint installations, can be a little bit complex. There's actually virtual machines, images already built with that on that, which is pretty cool. You can also work with multiple disks for a virtual machine. You're going to have your system disk. You can also have one or more data disks. And in fact, you can have different performance characteristics between them. So maybe you've got a standard system disk, but maybe you have a high-performance SSD drive that you're using for your data disk. Whatever the need is there, you can do that. You can connect to these in Windows or, and this is pretty cool, Linux as well. So if you've got any heterogeneous development environments where you're working with both Linux and Windows workloads, you can actually fully support that within the Azure environment. Take your Linux workloads and put them up into Azure, just as you can take your Windows workloads and put them up into Azure. Now, this last bit is actually really not even close to comprehensive. There is a wide range of sizes of virtual machines that you have available. And the size of the virtual machine is really important because obviously it's going to dictate the performance specs of whatever workload you're hosting there. But not surprisingly, it's also going to define the cost of running that workload on an Azure virtual machine. And Azure virtual machines can be scaled up and they can be scaled down. So if you start an Azure virtual machine and you realize you need a little more capabilities, then you can just scale that virtual machine to a higher level. And there are tiers and sizes within the tiers. So this says basic or standard tier VM. There's actually quite a number of different tiers and a number of sizes within each tier so that you can really fine tune exactly what performance metrics that you need balanced against the cost of using those performance metrics.